Welcome to the Earth Your Wild podcast, brought to you by Reusabox, providing a better way to buy cardboard boxes. We're your hosts, Jack and Ellie.
This is the podcast where we talk to industry experts and change makers to try to answer the question, how do we make our businesses better for people and the planet? Today we're joined by Zoe Starbuck, Director of Business Coaching and Leadership Development at Starbuck Associates, a B Corp certified leadership and coaching consultancy dedicated to helping organizations lead with clarity, integrity, and purpose. Zoe is an ICF accredited executive coach known for her engaging, relatable style and her ability to help leaders and teams feel confident and capable in their work. Welcome to the podcast, Zoe.
Wow. No, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be on it. And wow, what a welcome. So yeah, I have to say that sounded brilliant, Ellie. Wow.
I wondered if you could start by telling us a bit about Starbuck and Associates, your role and what you do today.
Yeah, no, well, we're definitely not the coffee shop, okay? Because a lot of people get us confused with that. We have lots of affiliates sign up and they all think we're Starbucks, but we're not. So yeah, we're Starbuck Associates and we do executive coaching, leadership development and ICF training. My career, I've spent over 30 years in corporate environments. So, I've been absolutely immersed in the corporate arena. And, I've been really, really lucky enough to lead really big teams. So, which is really important to me because it's all about people. So in leadership. And, I've seen firsthand the human impact great leadership can have. And I've always tried to develop and thrive to that because it's not about perfect. It's not about being the best or greatest leader. It's about being the best version of you as a leader and really helping people. And you're not always going to get it right. So I was really lucky to join my husband's business over 2 years ago. And yeah, I basically look after all organization, individual business coaching, bespoke leadership development. I basically go in, understand what the real problems are, not what people think the problems are, because I always find actually, Ellie and Jack, when I go into organization, they have this, I ask them, what do they think the problem is? They give this massive articulation and I say, so what makes you believe that? Then you find it's based on a lot of assumptions. I go in and do a full diagnostic, not just surveys, I actually speak to people. And what's really interesting is 9 times out of 10, the problem they thought they were trying to really solve is completely different to the actual problem. So, absolutely love the work I do in this space. And it's great because my husband's an amazing boss. He's the founder and CEO of Starbuck Associates. So a shout out there to Paul Starbuck. So thank you. And I suppose that, the work we do for us is about making sure it's always about the people are at the center focus. So it's not about giving someone something that we think they need, it's actually finding out what they really need. So, and that's part of our B Corp as well, because it's about sustainability. And we're really, really grateful last year. And well, in fact, we were overwhelmed. So last year we won highly commendable for sustainable leadership and that meant a lot because everything we do is not about tick box. It's not about classroom. It's not about training. It's about workshop immersions. It's about sustainability afterwards. So we have this big Starbuck Academy as well, where what we do is we understand what people need to continue embedding all these different behaviors, all these different flexions, all these new skills after we've done what we've done so that it grows even bigger, which is really important. And 2 weeks ago, we won the best coaching business at the National Coaching Awards for 2025. So we're kind of still in shock over that. as well. We're really, really grateful, but it meant, in fact, I cried. I couldn't get out of my seat. I was crying. Paul had to drag me on stage. But what it really meant was all that hard work, all those hours, all that understanding, and everything we do to make a difference, because that's who we are, that's our values, that's our ethos, really meant something. And it really, wow, the emotion was overwhelming. But again, really, really, you know, we're really grateful for all the individuals, all our clients, all our organizations, and everybody that supports and helps us every day to do what we do. So we're so grateful, and I love it. I absolutely love it.
It's interesting because I think we talk to a lot of people in our space about environmental sustainability, but I think surprisingly, I think a lot of businesses aren't actually that tight on more their culture and their leadership. So yeah, it's interesting.
And no, and culture should never be a byproduct. Culture should be, foundational. It should be part of the vision and strategy, not just a tick box. And that's how you really embed it and change it to make amazing cultures.
And you founded the Be Kind, Give Time, is that right?
Oh, yeah. So before I joined Starbuck Associates, I was made redundant. In fact, the whole company unfortunately went under. So, all my teams, all the whole organization, everyone was in a situation where they're out of a job. And while that was happening, I basically reached out. Paul put me into contact Jem Bevan. She runs social jobs, absolutely amazing person. And she basically trained me on LinkedIn, helped me understand how people could look for jobs and roles, new roles and careers on LinkedIn. She gave me everything, just all her time. And I was able then to pay that forward and start, developing, giving top tips and that to my teams as well to help them build LinkedIn profiles and everything. And on the back of that, I wanted to pay forward. So I founded Be Kind, Give Time. Jem Bevan and Paul Starbuck are both, trustees with me. And what we've got loads of experts that basically give an hour a month of their own time in their expertise area to help people that really need it. Because actually what I realized from that experience was talking to the right person at the right time is absolutely crucial. It can be the game changer. There's people that we've helped with Be Kind, Give Time where 3-4 years they've had this problem, not been able to solve it. They've had a 30-minute chat with one of the experts in the area they've got a problem with, and it's been solved. It's really helped. It's absolutely been amazing. So that's what Be Kind, Give Time does. It gives back, giving your time. Forget about money, because actually giving money is the transactional piece. And for years I used to donate to stuff, but then I became a million volunteer because I realized that actually what people need and charities need is people to give time. So yeah, that's Be Kind, Give Time.
Is that more businesses that you work with or charities or anyone?
Well, it's anyone that reaches out. So we've got our own website. We're also on LinkedIn. So Jem, again, does an amazing job running it all because, that's her expertise. She's brilliant at that stuff. And so people reach out, experts sign up, people reach out for our support. And what we do, we understand what the real problem is, and then we match them with the right expert who gives an hour of their time on Zoom to help them navigate. So it's really helping people navigate stuff. So I spend a lot of time navigating career transition with people and coaching. So I'll give them an hour coaching, etc., or I might do an hour career transition. So in that space, I sometimes do leadership development because I'm as they say, I'm a master of none, but I have a lot in my toolkit that I can offer.
Nice. So apparently only about 25% of UK workers fully trust their company leadership. As someone who coaches leaders, what do you think leaders get right, and where do most of them fall short in building trust with their teams?
And I suppose start with culture first. So for me, psychological safety has been a real thing that's been talked about over the last 3 years. Yeah. When I say talked about, it's discussed. But actually building psychological safety within an organization does not happen overnight. And, it's not just about the leaders, it's also about the hierarchy of the culture that really wants to be built. And psychological safety isn't something like when someone says, trust me. Actually, trust has to be felt. It has to be unseen but felt. And that's where psychological safety comes in its own. So for me, most leaders are so smart. I'll tell you what, being a leader is the hardest job, one of the hardest jobs ever, yeah? Because it's people. We're all unpredictable. And the fact is, most leaders are really, really smart, really savvy. But the thing is, they're capable of strategy, but usually that's not the issue. Where they fall down is definitely around clarity, consistency, and connection. So, as a leader, you might get asked to do a job. You might know you've got to do the job. You might not even like what you've got to do, but you know you've got to do it. The difference is when you're a leader and you've got to follow, what needs to be done, then you own it as a leader on how you do it, how you choose to do it, how you choose to engage with your people to get buy-in, how you choose to truly listen to your people to understand, what support they really need and what's really happening. That's where when you start building psychological safety, because people don't trust what they understand. So when they haven't got clarity or everything's vague, people are scared. Yeah, there's real fear factor. So if I always find if a vision isn't clear, behavior doesn't match it. Yeah. And, the values certainly aren't embedded in that as well. And trust erodes quickly. Imagine if you're in an organization where trust is not really true or not really built, then you can imagine the feeling of morale and the culture that's been created in that. So, the way I look at it, leaders don't need to know the answer, but they need to listen. And the one thing I've definitely transformed on, and I practice every day because it's really hard actually, you've got to practice it, is listening. So, and that's one of the things that if hindsight is amazing, but if I had my time over again, I would definitely, as a leader, spend more time in the space of listening. And when I say listening, it's not about just what's being said, it's also seeing, because when you truly listen, you see what's not being said. And it's about then asking great questions to kind of unwrap that. But a lot of things a lot of things that happens always surface level, but it's about as leaders, how do you really get down to the core to understand? And the other thing is humility. Humility, and I always say this quote, builds far more trust than authority ever does. So actually, sometimes you'll say, I don't know. I have no idea. But guess what? I've heard what you've said, and I'm going to ask that question for you.
When you say, so we're talking about leaders here, like, does this just apply to like the management team or MDs, or can anyone in a company be a leader? Or should they be trying to be leaders in their teams?
We're all leaders in our own right. We're also self-leaders. We lead ourselves, so we make choices every day of what we choose to do. So when I have people come to me not enjoying their job and it's a real drag and they don't want to do it anymore, it's almost like, what's holding you back? Because you're leading yourself, you're making choices that you want to do. Yeah. So we're all leaders in our own right, everything we do. Even parents are leaders. I'm a parent, and I obviously have to lead, for example, a good example. But my kids are grown up now, and I just think about leaders. We're all role models in our own right, and it's about being the best version of you and staying close to your own values and principles as well, and making sure people don't change them, because never compromise them, because they're the things that we're all born and we all die the same way. But actually, what we do as humans is we all evolve these values and principles, with our experiences, with the sum of our past. And so in our own right, we're all leaders and we all decide and make choices every day.
And is there a difference between a manager and a leader, or is it that good managers are leaders?
Well, there is a model actually. It's leader, manager, and operator. And what happens is that, if you think about it in a way that leaders bring context, they got the vision. They tell the narrative, they tell the story that everyone buys into, yeah? And then you've got the manager that absolutely then does all the processes, yeah, makes it happen, processes. Then you've got the operator that kind of does the doing. What you'll find is a leader, it's really hard to stay in leader mode because you get dragged down. You get dragged down in doing the process. You get dragged down in actually doing the job. Yeah. So when you think about it, that we're all leaders on our own right, as I said earlier, but within organizations and in leadership, it is so hard. Great leaders, and I've been very lucky where I've gone, wow, they're really inspiring, where I've seen them spend 80% of their time in that strategic vision, creating the narrative, absolutely getting the buy-in from people absolutely understand, having real clarity, and they spend 80% of their time in that, and then they choose where they spend the other 20%. And that might be in manager, or actually they might want a day off where they go and spend time on the shop floor, for example, an operator. But that's people that really, really get it, and they understand the role they play, and there's only one leader. So when you're in a team and you're the leader of that team, there's only one of you. And it's about how do you make sure you develop the capability and skill, and people, everyone in your team understands the role they play, yeah, and how valuable their part is, so they become extensions then of you. That is when you know a leader is getting that balance right. But it's when a leader tries to do the manager's job, the operator's job, it means that they then will not be given the clarity, the vision, absolutely bring in the narrative that is needed for everyone else below to really understand what is the part they're playing, what is this vision, what is our purpose.
And when you talk about like vision, like is there like an easy way companies can establish that? Is it as simple as that, or is it a lot more complex? Is it different for every business, for every leader?
So, great question, by the way. So a vision, we all need purpose. So the metaphor I would use, when you haven't got a vision, so a vision is about your future thinking, where do you want to get to? Okay. So when you haven't got that, you're like a kite, just lovely, floating around the sky, going here, going there, going everywhere. And actually, what a vision will help you do is bring clarity. It anchors you, you tie yourself down. Yeah. So you're a stable kite, you're there, you're still floating around, you can still see everything, but you've anchored yourself. Because what a vision does, to create a vision, you've got to understand where you want to be. And that could be 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. So when you've got that end in mind, that clear vision, it's got to be smart. Yeah. So you've got to make sure it's really specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, timed. Yeah. And you've got that vision, you understand where you want to go to. That's your end in mind. And what you can do then is you basically work backwards from that end in mind to today. And it will help you be more purposeful in your decision making, because you'll start saying, because people ask me, you're saying no to stuff. And the reason why is because I'm clear on where I want to be. I'm clear on my vision for the next 5 years. In fact, mine's 15. Yeah. Mine's retired. So the fact is that I'm really purposeful now, because I'll say, no, I don't want to do that based on, I don't want to spend my energy on something that's not going to serve my vision. And that's when someone's got real clarity, because everything they do, or it might be, yes, I'm going to do that because I'm more purposeful, because I know that energy I spend on that is going to be playing out in that future vision I want, that I'm creating.
It's interesting because we have to spend a lot of time on this with our job and our business and our life. And I think as well, the other thing is it's like creating your vision's hard enough, right? But like then it's like you have to make it compelling, because you have to get people to buy into it. So how do you get people to buy into your vision? But like that's like, to me it feels like there's like the vision, and then it's like making it compelling. How do you get people to actually help you with that?
So if you think about a house, right? So the roof is your vision, okay? And remember, first you need clarity and you need to be bought in, because you can't tell the narrative, a story, if you're not bought into it. So you've got to make sure that is truly your vision. And sometimes in executive coaching, because it's all forward thinking, it can take 2 sessions, yeah, until my clients are clear on what their real vision is. Yeah. because it's about asking the right questions. You might go, round a bit, but until you truly know what that vision is and you're absolutely cementing that vision, then it actually becomes a lot simpler. So you've got your vision as your house, and what you've got to decide is what pillars are going to support this vision. Yeah, what's going to hold up my roof? Yeah, so what pillars am I going to make sure are the right focus pillars that are going to support this vision that I want? And that could be, for example, one will be people and culture. One might be networking, partnerships, for example. One might be operations, yeah, and one will be, definitely around your customer, yeah. And then once you got those pillars, your foundation becomes, how am I going to achieve this? What are the actions? Your foundation becomes the actions you're going to take to make sure you're very focused on each of these pillars with the best, informed actions you can take that is going to achieve your vision. Because the foundations then become so solid because you're absolutely being purposeful with your actions on how you're doing it. Your pillars are going to hold up and be absolutely solid, and that vision is going to be held up, yeah, because your vision is your roof. So that's kind of how I describe it in a metaphor.
Do you think most businesses do a pretty good job of this or not?
It's hard to say. Yeah, you've got research, and research is only a small part because not everybody obviously pulls into that research. So in my own experience, what I find first is mostly people got idea of the vision, but what they struggle with is that the right vision? And the thing is, there is no right or wrong, because we have no future ball that tells us the future. The bit is, it's got to be your vision. You've got to own it. So you've got to be passionate about what is it you're trying to achieve, because that then brings real purpose to yourself. It brings real purpose to your organization, and it brings real purpose to all your people and all your clients that work with you. So people do struggle, but when they, obviously with executive coaching, you spend an hour with a coach and they will listen, but a great coach asks great questions. Sometimes I only need to ask 3 questions to unlock my client's thinking in a 90-minute session. I might only ask 3, because remember, the client's doing 80-90% of the talking. All I'm doing is I'm doing 100% of the listening, and also not what's not being said, and then probably asking 10-15% of the right questions, because my role as the coach is to unlock the thinking behind it. And once people have that thinking and they got clarity themselves, then the vision becomes really clear.
And I guess, how do you help businesses to separate this from the financial side of it? Because obviously businesses have to be profitable to exist, but the vision can't just be, we're going to make this much in turnover or profit, because that's not really a purpose that doesn't lead to a purpose that people can get behind. Because I feel like businesses can kind of struggle between, we need to make this much amount of money and what our underlying purpose or vision is. Do you ever find that?
But maybe like you work for a purpose-driven company, so like for you, that might be true, but maybe other companies, someone on Wall Street, for example, might not think like that. So maybe Zoe?
Great. Well, hey, do you know, I'm sat here, I think, what a great question. So I actually call it the stepstone vision. So like our organization, we had a vision that we set when I joined 2.5 years ago. So Paul reviewed his vision he had and looked at what he achieved, what went well, what was great, what did he learn about himself. Okay, so I then come to the organization, then we had Paige and more associates and everything, and we looked at what is our vision for the next 3 years, right? Because actually he had that vision and he got 90% there. In fact, well done, you've done a great job, Paul Starbuck. And then what we did was we set another 3-year vision. But when you set visions, it doesn't mean you set one for 20 years. You stepstone them, because what you'll do is, and there's some people that set visions for 2 years. There's some people that set visions for 3, 5, 10. So when you're stepstoning your vision, you're setting a vision, and actually you're making it kind of where you know you're going to get to this point. So like our company, Paul done a vision. He got to a point, 90% achieved. He then wanted to scale. So the vision changed because he wanted to help more and more thousands of people. So the vision changed. So we changed the vision in line with what we wanted to achieve. So that was our vision. And the thing is, you balance it. So remember I talked about my metaphor, my house with the vision, and you got your pillars. Well, one of those pillars are definitely going to be, your financial pillar in organizations. So it's about that balance. It's about making sure that when you set a vision and then you do your pillars, that all the actions of how you're going to make this happen, if you like, in your foundations, have to be realistic in line with what's happening around you. And that's within your organization, that's in external factors. So like we did a massive old-fashioned swap. Yeah, we understood, like, for example, with how AI is coming in, how the world is potentially playing out. Yeah, we don't know the future, but what we did do was we looked at the risks associated. So when we set our vision and we set all our pillars underneath that and all the actions that are going to happen on how we're going to create that, they were set realistically, because we weren't going to set ourselves up for failure. We wanted to set ourselves up for success. But, it wasn't like, it's when organizations saying, right, by this time next year, Rodney, I'm going to be a millionaire. It's about making sure you're realistic because you want to set yourself up for success.
And I wanted to talk about people as well and culture. So there's real evidence that when businesses invest in people and culture, it improves performance. I think we're all kind of aware of that concept. But from your experience, what are the most impactful things or some of the easy wins that people or businesses can do to achieve that?
Well, for me, as we've already talked about, it starts with the clarity of purpose and direction. Okay, so people have to be clear and they've got to understand the roles they play. Okay, and the parts, the real role and the part they play, but also how do they contribute? So your lowest denominator, employee that might only work 4 hours a week should still understand the part they play in your organization and the value they bring and the contribution they make. That's so important because that makes it purposeful. Doesn't then make it a job where you're just turning up and getting the money. Yeah. So that is really important. And the other thing is develop your managers, to be coaches rather than controlling. Actually, the thing that I find is when a manager allows their team to step into space to actually do their role, that they're here to do, and actually start trusting them to do that so that they can absolutely then do their role brilliantly. And then people learn together. And when you've got a manager that stops tell, but actually starts asking questions like, so what do you think we should do with this? Because that's developing. When you're got a coaching culture, you're developing everybody. You're not just telling, because when you tell someone, they will keep coming back to go, I've got this problem. What do you think I should do? What you're doing is absolutely developing ownership. So then people, you'll find as a manager, you won't have everyone that you line manage keep coming to you every 5 minutes asking you what you think. They will start developing that skill. Definitely create psychological safety. And I use the word create because you can't make it. Yeah, you can't say, trust me. You've got to start creating the environment and it takes time. And what happens is as well, if you do one thing that is wrong, as in the impact's great on people, it erodes the trust so quickly. It takes a long time to build, but erosion happens very fast. Definitely invest in growth and well-being, and that doesn't need to be a massive investment. It depends on your vision, depends on financial situation as well. But actually look at how you can invest, because that's really important, growth and well-being. Because I promise you now, when your company grows, what happens is, if you think about this is a line of people, and I've got probably 20 odd clients in this situation at the moment where their businesses are growing like this. The problem is they've never actually thought about their people pillar. So the people are not growing quick enough. So what's happening is they're trying to develop their people. The business is doing this, but you can see there's a huge gap from capability of their people. It's not because the people are bad or doing a bad job. The people started within the company, but because they weren't looked after or invested in, they didn't grow like this with the company growth. So that's always a big thing. Always invest in growth and well-being. And I always find that the strongest organizations I work with don't manage people, they actually always develop them. And there's a few organizations that have kind of really blown me away. There's one based in Lincoln.
Street Heavers, yeah.
Yeah, Street Heavers, sorry. Absolutely amazing. Their development and their strategy and their vision is about bringing their people with them and consistently developing them. Absolutely brilliant. And that really blew me away when I met them and what they're doing. So real inspiration. And for me, that's about them. My last bit would be when people feel valued and supported, guess what? Retention takes care of themselves. Yeah. People want to be part of something bigger themselves. It's really purposeful and it really feels great, safe. They're getting challenged in the right way. They're getting stretched. They're being looked after. Yeah. It's like this lovely comfort blanket. So that would be how I would look at that.
Okay. Going back to the purpose point, research shows that around 70% of employees say a sense of purpose at work is important to them and gives meaning to what they do. Yet only about 21% of UK professionals find their role truly fulfilling. Why do you think there's such a gap?
I think what happens is, potentially a lot of times, is people get so busy, they get caught up in the day job. And I'm actually talking from experience. Yeah. So I'm thinking about myself over the years. So when I'm one of these people who've got to love what I do. I'm one of these people who've got to jump out of bed every morning because I just can't wait to to have a brilliant day and make a difference and impact. So, and I've been in situations where I've not felt that at all because I've lost my sense of purpose. And I think that what organizations do, people talk about purpose. They might put it on a poster. They definitely talk about it at brand level and things like that, but they don't translate it, I suppose, into daily work. What does that really mean? How am I contributing? So it's almost like, I think of the story, which I really love, about the gentleman that is in the NASA station, and he's there sweeping in the corridors, and he gets asked, so, what are you doing? He doesn't say I'm sweeping. He says, I'm basically putting rockets on the, in space on the moon. So that is real purpose. And I love that story because I think, imagine if you can anchor everybody to what they do every day, their daily work and that kind of purpose. But what happens is people get so busy, they get so weighed down with everything, they kind of lose the meaning of why they're doing what they do. And I suppose fulfillment's so important, definitely for me, but majority of humans, fulfillment's important. And I think what happens is that people lose sight of what fulfills them. Who are they anymore? What is really important to them? So I absolutely think self-reflection is really important. All of us should do it. Regularly reflect on, what is it? What is it we're trying to achieve here? What do we want to be doing in a year's time? What does great look like to us in a year's time? And is what we're doing now going to absolutely serve that fulfillment?
Do you think there's a leadership crisis today?
I think that people are becoming more burnt out. I have definitely felt and seen an increase in that. And I definitely think that's because that, unfortunately, we're in a time where things are being stripped out. The ask of people are getting greater. So we're not potentially giving them the skill or capability, but guess what? It's people's jobs are changing quicker than they can develop the skill to it, and they're getting asked to do more. So you're finding that a lot more people are getting exhausted and burnt out. And I'm just thinking about people around me and even my friends and everything. The conversations about burnout are a lot more often than they have ever been because people feel exhausted. They feel put on by. They feel like decisions are being made that are being made here and now that maybe are based on financial costs, but what that no one's looking at is the risks, the bigger risks, and I call it the fallout. What is the fallout of the decisions we're making, not just here and now, but how far is this impact going to go in the next year, in the next 2 years, in the next 3 years? And I do diagnostics and look at that for organizations, because that's the problem. Decisions need to be really informed.
And I think most people would agree with you that burnout is this huge problem. It feels like it's getting worse. But also at the same time, people are now, and employers are more aware than ever of mental health at work. So how should employers balance ambition and success, or financial success, without sacrificing their people and their people's health?
No, a great question. And I can give suggestions because, wow, I haven't got the $1 million question to solving that. I have to say, I'm really sorry. Sorry, Jack. But my suggestions are, first, go and actually understand. Go in and get under the layers to understand what's really going on in your organization. How are people really feeling? Yeah. So that would be my suggestion for the first point, to understand them what really needs to help. But then ask them, what do they actually need? What would help them? Because the thing is, when you've got a certain headcount in the organization and you've still got the same amount of people, but then, people go, but I can't do this, the job, we're being asked to do more and more things. It's about then understanding, what does great actually look like? What do people, need to really support them? What needs to go? Because sometimes what happens is that people make changes, but they don't actually look at stuff that's not purposeful anymore and stop doing. And I love doing the stop, start, continue. I look at everything. So what don't we actually need to do anymore? What do we need to start really doing? And what is going great? And what's important that we need to continue? So stop, start, continue. Really understand, ask people how they're feeling. And there's so much support out there. There's loads of free support as well for organisations. There's a mental health first aider programs. We actually run them, and Kathy Lawson, who runs them for us, she's an amazing mental health first aid trainer. She also ICF PCC coach as well. And that's about bringing not just awareness, but also helping people then sustain it, because you can put people in as mental health first aiders, but what you've got to make sure is that those people understand they're the bridge, they're the support. They're not doing someone's job for them. They're there so then when people want to really think they've got kind of a beacon, a light to go to because they might have a problem, it means that they can go first to that individual. And a mental health first aider training is great. It's all different levels. And I've seen that work brilliantly in organizations. But actually, if you don't want to do that first, just go and ask the right questions. How people feel, and what support do they really need? What does great look like for them?
Do you think businesses are getting better at looking out for the mental health and well-being of their teams, or do you think they're getting worse as a generalization?
I think there's great examples, and there's examples where people have to be forced into it because something actually happens. So the companies that are doing it great, Jack, are very proactive. So we partner with Hempit, menopause in the workplace, because we do it's a passion of mine, perimenopause and menopause and everything. So I do loads of work in that space. And I love it when I get invited to their conference. It's brilliant because I see all these organizations being really proactive in this space. They're not waiting for a problem. They're not waiting for someone to ask them or be forced. They're being proactive because they're trying to build this great culture that's truly got psychological safety. It's all about well-being, but it's about actually putting their people at the center. And then you've got the other side where I watch it, where people panic because suddenly someone's made a complaint because something's happened. But guess what? They didn't have the policies in place. They never had anything that they put in because they thought it wouldn't happen to them. So I think creating and being proactive is really important.
And we've obviously lived through one of the biggest changes in working practices probably since ever, right? Which is people working from home and working remotely and hybrid roles. Do you think that improves or exacerbates, the situation with people's mental health at work?
So this is really, really interesting question because, so this, in my opinion, it's got no facts based on it, but I know change is evolution. So you can't run from change. You've got to run towards change. And actually, I think hybrid working works really well in the right environments for people. I've seen it where it's helped people's mental health, where they've got better work-life balance. In fact, they're more productive because they might take the kids to school, walk the dog, come do a bit of work, take the kids to school, and then they are so focused for 6 hours doing their best work. Because actually, someone working 14 hours a day, and I already know research will back this, is not as productive as someone that's focused for 6-7 hours. Okay, so I think that has helped people hybrid working with the work-life balance as well. And I've seen people churning out some of the best work they've ever done. The other side is that it depends it's different for everyone. Everyone's different. We're all different. So you've got the other side of the coin where people find it lonely. They feel unanchored. They don't feel they're part of a bigger team because they're working remotely now. Actually, some companies haven't even got office facilities anymore, so they hardly get together. So they feel really distanced. They lose that belonging. So I think there's pros and cons to it, absolutely, and I think it's different for everyone. I also think it works differently for what role you do, what type of organisation you work in, as well.
And do you think it comes down to, I was going to say management, but leadership as well of that person? Because obviously if they've not got a good line manager or someone and they know exactly what they're doing, then it's perhaps easier for things to go downhill in that environment.
Yeah, and managing remotely is really, really hard. Really hard. I've had big teams where regions and the regions were huge. So it's about absolutely making sure you're still visible even when you're not visible, but creating that space where people know if they need to speak to someone, they just pick up the phone and you're there for them. And also, it's really important to actually make sure you have regular meetings. And when I say regular meetings, I don't mean like, a meeting that's not purposeful, a meeting for the sake of it. I mean, actually, if you're going to have a meeting, what's the purpose of the meeting? How do you want people that are working remotely to, leave a Zoom or Teams call feel? Because what happens is now, and I see it, happens quite a lot, is where people do a Zoom meeting, they basically go all through the business stuff. People just sit there on Zoom looking interested or doing their emails, and actually not really listening or paying attention because they're like, here we go, the usual Monday morning meeting. They just cascade in what we've done wrong, what we've got to do. Actually, it's about having a purposeful meeting that you actually think about how do you want people to leave, and actually doing a meeting that's interactive, asking people what they think, putting things in the chat, And I know people get worried because they think, oh, my Zoom meeting's going to overrun, but put the time in the diary where it's not just a cascade meeting. Actually, make it interactive. You can still do that.
I think it's interesting because I think my experience, I'm sure like almost everyone listening as well, meetings are one of the things that most businesses get wrong a lot, I think. Actually, simple thing that's really quite hard to do.
We've had terrible meetings.
Yeah, and if there's anyone listening that's maybe has to organize meetings, like is there any like simple actionable advice? Anything that you say this is a good principle of how to have a good meeting?
Well, as I said, number one, think about the purpose of the meeting. What is it you want people to leave with? Yeah, what's the clear thing you want people to go away with? How do you want people to leave that meeting? Yeah, really important. So remember the end in mind. Yeah, so I'm doing a bit of steamed coffee here. But you know the end in mind, you think about the end in mind first. Because once you know what your end in mind is, you work backwards with the steps. So you know then how you want the feel of the meeting. No. So if you want everyone to feel motivated and clear on something you've cascaded, you've got to think about how you're going to set this meeting up. So you'll make sure that, you do your announcement and what have you. You might then say to everyone, so it'd be great to get feedback, but with what I've just said, how about let's go three and fours into, for example, breakout rooms, just to discuss what I've just said and how that's landing and what part you think everyone you all play. Yeah, so you're able then to get feedback after they come out of this Zoom room, being 10 minutes in there chatting, really giving them time to digest it together. And everyone's different. You will have big reflectors that will need to still digest it, maybe, the next day, the next week. But what's great is you get initial reaction, yeah? And you might send them off into that room with 2 or 3 great questions on the back of what you've just said. And when I say questions, not closed questions, I mean coaching, really great questions. So your best coaching questions start with how and what. Yeah, that's my top tip. And then when they come out, you then get a sense of how it is. So then you're listening as a leader. Yeah. And then, you're reflecting, you're listening, for what's been said. And you're also then asking them a question like, what support do you need from me to help you deliver this?
Good question. Yeah.
It's always a great question, right? It's what top question I always say to leaders to go and ask. Because actually what you're doing is you're opening yourself up as a leader to say, I am here for you. I need to understand what support looks like, because actually I know this has got to be delivered, but I can't deliver it without you. I need you to help me bring the plan together. So, and then what you would do then is absolutely within that meeting, make sure there is clear actions. Yeah. And you might get someone to go through, not yourself. You might have already nominated someone that's going to kind of take the basic top line notes for you, so that they, as a peer, then summarize what are the actions and commitments taken away from this meeting. Actions are different to commitments. Actions are things we do. Commitments are things that we will act within our own behaviors to make happen. So really, really important actions and commitments are taken. And then the other question is, so, how do you want to follow this up? What does great review look like for this? So they might say, actually, can we have another meeting next week, 45 minutes, just to go back over our reflections, where we are, so we're really clear on what we need to do and what the plan is that we've got to do. And then, the thing is, remember, you've thought about how you want them to leave. So the thing is, what I normally do is in comments is like one word, how you're feeling, or if I've got, get them to go round, one word. And a real one word. If you've got true psychological safety, guess what? The reason why you do one word, because as a leader, what you're hearing is that word, and that word will mean something different to everyone, what they've used. So the words then you think, they need to be my first phone call after this meeting. I need to check on them to make sure they're okay. But you make sure they're honest with the words they use. Just say, use the word that is true. Because actually, as a team, for us to keep building psychological safety, you just use the word, honestly, that you actually are feeling. And those words, sometimes people, when I've done it, is like come out and they've said demotivated. Well, I've not reacted. I've just taken that word, but I know that's a person that I need to follow up with as soon as that meeting's over, to help them and to say, I'm here for you. How can I help you?
That's really smart, because I guess in this hypothetical scenario, you've got them to you clarify what your objective is. You've got them to tell you how they're going to do it. You've got them to tell you the blockers, so you know what you need to help them with, and then you understand where they're at as well. So if you need to jump in and assist anyone. Yeah,
it's amazing what you can do on
an
hour on Zoom. It's amazing what you do on an hour on Zoom. Well, I do. It's part of my job.
No, I'm joking. Yeah.
Okay. So when you think about the next generation of entrepreneurs, what advice would you give them about leading with integrity and people at the center?
So I've got two clients. They're young entrepreneurs, absolutely brilliant. Yeah, setting their own businesses up. One I supported where even though I'm an executive coach and I do all this stuff, I also do mentoring and non-exec director work. So I helped him in that space, and I knew at the time they kind of needed a mentor, which is different to coaching, etc. And so, they asked me to be their mentor. And the thing for me was I actually, we understood what they wanted to do, the clarity of vision. And it was interesting because I asked them what their values were. And they actually never really thought about what their values were. And the bit for me is you've got to be clear on your values, because once you're clear on your values, you won't let anyone compromise them. But you've got to be clear first, because then you'll know anything you do, if that's going against your value, you're compromising them. And the other thing is for me is, and I have to say that, all the entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, wow, they are brilliant at already starting building a culture, and they build it with real intention. Yeah. And I just absolutely watching them just grow and actually understanding that culture is really important. So back in my day, we actually got given a job role. We got given a set of keys, whatever. We got told this is what we got to do, and basically don't do it wrong. And there was no like real basics of culture, understanding values, this type of company you work for and what have you. But do you know, it's really important to people, and I've really noticed to everyone, but I've noticed it's become more with values matching and culture matching. But I've noticed with younger entrepreneurs now that culture is something they build from the beginning. And the other advice is hire people you trust. Hire people you trust. That is really important. And I was watching this podcast a few weeks ago, and it was interesting because they talked about what they learned about themselves. And one of the things was, I've learned not to trust everyone, because you go in with that naivety. But honestly, hire people you trust. And definitely invest in your own self-awareness, highly, because it's lonely at the top, really lonely at the top. So invest in your own self-awareness. Get yourself get yourself a great mentor, get yourself an executive coach. Some people have mentors, executive coaches, and get yourself maybe a non-executive director. But it's lonely at the top, so invest in that. And also think about the impact, not just the income. Don't just chase the number. Because I promise you, when you build things that are sustainable and you're building a real brand with intention, the money comes. The money comes. And you don't need to have all the answers. Yeah. Just the willingness to keep learning, and don't be afraid, be brave and keep adapting. Because guess what? None of us know all the answers. But just keep being brave and show that courage, because it takes courage. And I love it watching those people with all that courage that just absolutely go for it. Because guess what? There's two questions you always ask yourself. What is the best thing that can happen if you did this? And what is the worst thing that can happen if you did this? So once you know the answer to both of them, you've nothing to lose.
Going back to your comment on trust, important thing in terms of, people, only work with people you can trust. Do you think most people know who they trust? Is that an easy thing for us to work out, or do you think a lot?
Are you saying, is it more of a gut feeling?
I'm just saying, do you I sometimes I think sometimes you don't really know if you trust someone if you're doing interviews until they've worked somewhere for 3 months or 6 months. So is it just me, or is it hard to work out who you trust? And is there any easy ways? How do we work out how to trust people?
Well, I've got a personal thing. When someone says to me, trust me, straight away, my back's up, because I'm like, what do you mean, trust me? I don't even know you. Wow.
It always pricks my ears up. I would never not trust someone because they say that, but whenever someone says that, you're always like,
So it does the opposite effect, doesn't it? And the thing is that trust is built on, connection, but it's also built on what you've seen and felt and heard, because trust is built. And it takes time and it takes experiences. So when you first meet someone, you kind of are naive because like me, I'm the person that embraces everyone because I love people, so I trust everyone. I give everyone the benefit of the doubt until they do something that maybe I question their integrity, or actually I don't trust them anymore. And I think that you've got to be open to it. I don't know. In my opinion, I think it's very hard to work out who you can really trust and who you can't, because it's built through experiences. So you think about like Ellie and Jack, the people that's been with you on your journey with your business. There's people in that business that have been there from the beginning that you will trust, and people will say things like, I trust them with my life and what have you, and I trust them with my business, I trust them. And that's because you've built experiences with them. You've had moments, yeah? You've built a strong relationship. Your relationship is not just strong, but it's big. It's big enough to get whatever you need done, because the trust is absolutely cemented in it. But it takes time. So don't be scared. Everyone you come in contact with, you're not gonna, you initially you're gonna trust them, but unfortunately it might do something that you then doubt that trust. But trust me, just take the risk, because there will be, I'm doing it on purpose. Trust me. I'm being honest. That so what happens
believe me.
Oh yeah, believe me is another good one. But the thing is that you gotta embrace people, because you won't know otherwise. And if you close yourself off, what will happen is you'll probably be missing out on amazing people that will be with you a lifetime.
Interesting.
Yeah, believe me.
Do you think vulnerability, being vulnerable as a leader or in a team, does that help build trust? Because, does it help build trust? I don't know.
Oh, totally. Vulnerability is a key leadership trait, in my opinion, because vulnerability and showing up, you being your true self, and in those moments makes you human. And human connection is everything. So vulnerability as a leader, wow, a really strong leadership trait. And because people actually then make you become more relatable when you're vulnerable, because you're being real, you're being authentic. People then will want to work for you. They will then start absolutely following you and believing in what you say. Yeah. So really, really important.
Interesting. Okay, so what's one moment early in your leadership journey that shaped how you lead and how you coach others?
So, as I said earlier, if I retrained or did anything, I'd do my ICF a lot earlier, because what that does is practice you being a great coach. Gives you real, you got your ethics that you live by, you got your core competencies for you to be a great coach. And the bit for me is early in my corporate career, so I was a manager at the age of 18, and I saw I was in a very male dominated environment, and I had some real role models I looked up to, brilliant, capable people. And I remember one that was a mentor for me, and he lost real confidence. And he'd been a manager for years, but he started losing confidence. Self-doubt was creeping in, and you could tell in those days you didn't talk about burnout, but you could tell there was burnout on the rising. But he didn't feel like he had nowhere to go. He couldn't tell his line manager, because actually you don't want to show that you're being vulnerable, and that you're basically potentially in his head, he was thinking he'd be saying, I can't do this job anymore. It wasn't that he couldn't do the job anymore, it's because things had changed for him, so he needed support in a different way. So that for me is where people don't feel heard, so people don't speak up, and people suffer in silence. There's so many people out there that suffer in silence, and I only know this now because especially in the work that I do within the menopause and perimenopause space and everything, with my clients that I coach, that they've been suffering for years, and these are like directors and CEOs, high up people, and they have to put a face on every day and pretend. And actually, we shouldn't be living in the world of that. That's why it was a great question you asked earlier about vulnerability, because you should be able to show you're human and vulnerable. You haven't got all the answers when you're a leader, etc. So I've got to say that, you know, I've really come to believe that leadership isn't about right or wrong because we haven't got the future magic ball. I think it's about reflection, it's about understanding, it's about truly listening and asking what went well, what should, you know, I do differently? How do I show up to be my best self? And, my coaching is always reflective rather than prescriptive because I'm an ICF coach. I listen. I listen for what's not being said. And in my role is to ask great questions. And the thing for me is if I'm still your coach after 12 months, it means I haven't done your job. I haven't done my job well. Because when someone's got a coach for years and years, you've got, it's like, whoa, yeah. And I've got clients that got promoted a couple of years back. I was their coach for 9 months. They got what they wanted. Their goal, their vision, the goal was to get promoted, bigger role. And actually, where two of them's come back in the last 6 months because they've been promoted again. But they need me now again for the next level. So that's the difference as well. Helping people, think clearly and also trust themselves. Yeah, rather than telling them what to do is, I think, really important. I get such a buzz what I do now because I'm so proud. I watch real growth happen by people unlocking their own potential. I'm just a thinking partner in this and watching them grow in front of me and actually their goals happening. Yeah. Ticking the box on not just, getting their goals, but actually exceeding them. And all I've been is someone that's been there walking behind them on the path. Because all I've done is a lot of thinking on which direction they take. So yeah, I love what I do.
It was a great story.
Okay, final question. It's 10 years from now. What does the world look like and how has Starbuck and Associates made a difference?
Okay, well, we haven't done our 10-year vision yet. I'm just letting you know that. So I love leaving legacies, and that makes, like, as a human, I want to leave a legacy. And I want us to leave this legacy where we're still remembered, and people remember us. So it's a bit like, when you went to school and people ask you, oh, who was your favorite teacher? Most people have one they can actually remember. They might have had, because actually from the age of, when you went to school, 4, 5, all the way up to your son to 18, and then you get to the age of 30, 35, and you ask someone what their favourite teacher is, they might only be able to think of one. And they might have had, in that time, 60 to 70 teachers, but they might only think of one. And that teacher's left an imprint on them, a memory imprint that's really helped shape them. So that teacher's actually left this legacy, because it's remembered, but it's also gone and helped someone absolutely grow and reflect differently and support them within whatever they've done in their lifetime. So I definitely want leadership to be more human. I don't want, because AI is going to be there, but guess what? That's AI. And I think using AI is, in the right way is brilliant. I think AI is great. Yeah. But I want us to still absolutely be all about human contact, human thinking, human emotion. And I want coaching skills to be everyday, be normal management skills. I don't want it to be where people have to bring in development workshops and what have you to do leader as a coach. I want it to be there from the beginning in organizations as a strong pillar that they're going to have a coaching culture. It's going to be part of their vision and strategy. Well, actually, they're creating a coaching culture. I want businesses to absolutely measure impact alongside profit as well. I don't want it all be about a number, chasing a number and about the profit. I want the business measure impact to be about what they're doing. And remember, I'm a B Corp, yeah. So this is about also what impact they're having within the world, their communities, but on their people. I want real measures around that as well. And I also want where people give back is normal, not exceptional. Because what people do is companies, you find the companies that do things brilliant where they're giving back all the time. You don't really hear about their stories. They're the ones that should be shouting about what they're doing because they're inspirational. But then the other ones that do it occasionally, then suddenly that actually it's a whole big thing. But it's the companies that are quiet, that are just doing it there quietly and they're making a difference. Yeah, for them, that's normal. It's not exceptional. And I'd love Starbuck and Associates being known for helping organizations lead with clarity, integrity, and purpose. And definitely for helping individuals feel confident and capable in their work. Because actually, when you feel capable in their work, that also spills over and transpires in your personal life. It's like my coaching, ICF coaching, has made a difference with me, not just obviously as a coach within my work life, I call it my vocation now, but also in my personal life. It's made a massive difference as well. And I want Be Kind to give time as well to continue, because I want that to keep growing, because I want us to keep that human connection where talking to the right person at the right time can be the game changer that you need. And yeah, for me, I just think we need to value each other more and be able to just be our best selves at work and within our personal lives. And for me, that would be success. So yeah, leaving a legacy that's got all of that wrapped up would be amazing.
Nice. 10 years, we'll have you back on.
Do you know what I will say, Jack? I will say, remember, I said there's no right or wrong. Can only make the best informed decision based on what you know, because I have no future ball.
Yeah. Sometimes I think there's not like a right and wrong. There's just different ways of doing things. You just have to think, what's the right way for me? Oh, that was great.
Yeah,
that was really great.
Thank you.
Like that.
Brilliant. No, love. Honestly, I've loved spending time with you both. So thank you so much. It's been brilliant.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the podcast. We hope it was truly
Earth your while.
For more information, visit reuserbox.co.uk/earthyourwhile.
And if you'd like to appear on the next series of Earth Your While, please email media@reuserbox.co.uk.